Welcome to La Vida Las Vegas podcast. We're two physical therapists living the life in Las Vegas. I'm Dr. Erica.
And I'm Dr. Joe. We created this podcast for two reasons. First, to connect the healthcare, wellness, and fitness communities in Las Vegas. And second, to highlight all the amazing people we've met along the way.
Thank you for listening, and remember to take care of yourself.
Today's guest is Lee Ann Coffer. She is a nurse and CrossFit coach in Las Vegas. She talks about what being a nurse means to her, how she got into coaching, and about being a macro coach for Stay Fit Mom. So welcome to La Vida Las Vegas podcast.
Hello.
Do you want to introduce yourself and what you do?
Okay, I am Lee Ann Coffer. I'm a coach at CrossFit Culmination, a coach with Stay Fit Mom Macronutrition, and also a registered nurse at Summerlin Hospital.
And what part of the Summerlin do you work in? Which unit?
I work with orthopedic surgical post-op patients. So we get the hips, knees, backs, surgical patients post-op.
Awesome. So you get to see people in a lot of pain, huh? After
Yes.
surgeries.
Yes, that is one of our number one things that we are helping people with is that pain and getting out of the bed.
So what made you want to be a nurse?
When I was in 5th grade, I wanted to deliver babies. That was like my big thing. But as I went through like middle school and high school, I still had a strong pull to nursing. In my 11th and 12th grade year, I did a medical careers class and I loved it. I loved the nurse who taught it. And I loved learning how to be a certified nursing assistant. So I got my nursing assistant license while I was in high school. And then I worked as a nursing assistant all the way through college. And I loved it. I just loved caring for people. I took care of my grandpa. And I remember being at the hospital thinking, this is where I belong. I need to be here. And then at one point I was like, oh, I'm going to be a doctor. And my nursing instructor in high school, she was like, no. She's like, you need to be at the bedside. That is your skill. Like you need to take care of people and not just pass by. And so that just inspired me and I love it. I love being a nurse.
That's an interesting pathway to becoming a nurse. I don't think I've heard a lot of people who become a CNA first and then eventually become nurses.
Yeah, for me, it made me ultra confident as a nursing student. Like I was very confident in the patient's room and I worked at a nursing home for 5 years and I loved it. And I felt like those patients are my patients and I get to take care of them. And so then when I went to nursing school, there were a lot of nursing students who were apprehensive to go in the room with patients. They were nervous about all kinds of stuff that I never felt nervous about. Like I knew the anatomy of bodies at a very young age and was not like embarrassed at all to have male patients or female patients, where I think about like my children, I'm like, oh my gosh, I would never want them to do that when they were in high school. But for me, it just never even like messed with me because I feel like I just started at such a young age. I was like, oh, I'm just meant to take care of people.
That's cool that both of us, was our second career going back for a PT. And I think it does help when you have that experience when you're going into clinical rotations for sure.
Yeah, because you're like, oh, it's not a big deal. Because really, it's way more uncomfortable for the patient than it is for us. Because I don't know, like for me, I'm just like, oh, I'm gonna put a Foley catheter in, and then of course the patient's like, wait, what? I'm like, it's okay, everything's fine. I've done this a million times. So, yeah, you just kind of, but then also you have to be thoughtful of that. Like, wait, I'm super comfortable with this, but the patient isn't. So I need to be a little more thoughtful with closing the door and respecting the privacy and that kind of stuff.
So you have a lot of different things that you are involved with right now. How did you get into CrossFit after, being a nurse and being a coach?
It's funny. I was a runner. I love to run. So I ran half marathons and full marathons. And then my friend Tracy, who owns Stay Fit Mom, her, and we always vacation together. And so we went to Mexico, and they're like, we have to try CrossFit. We're going to go to CrossFit while we're in Mexico. And I was like, oh, I don't want to. But we went, and it was fine. And then Jeff, when we got home, was like, I'm going to try out gym. So he tried out CrossFit Culmination. And I kind of was like, no, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing this. And then I did it. And at first I cried like every time I went, because I was just like, I can run marathons and I can't do this whole workout with like wanting to die. So then, but then like for me, it was, okay, you can do so much more than you think you can. And if you just show up every day, even if you're sore, eventually it gets easier and better and you get confident. And so for me, it was just like a switch in my brain, like, oh, I can do more than I ever thought I could. I can do 100 pull-ups in a workout, or push-ups, or a muscle up, or all these things that I had no clue that I could ever be able to do, especially as at that point I had two young kids, like I think they were 4 and 7. And so I was like, I'm a mom, like moms don't learn new things like this. And so pretty awesome. And so that's what made me want to coach. Actually, I wanted to coach because I wanted my kids to do CrossFit, and there was no CrossFit kids coach. And so I was like, well, I'm going to go get my certification. So I had to do my level 1 first, and then my kids CrossFit level, or kids CrossFit certification. So that was fun. So I started out just coaching kids, which I love. I love coaching kids. And then I switched and started coaching adults too, which was kind of a neat transition to start with kids and then move to adults. And,
Who listens better?
I love coaching kids. They don't like have any expectations. They just go in there to have fun. And what a cool thing to get to teach kids. Exercise is fun and it's lifelong. It's not just your sport that you do, it's something that you do forever. And then CrossFit kind of transitions into everything. So all my kids that come in, a lot of them play hockey or volleyball or basketball or baseball, and we just talk about how our strength is in our core, and all that strength transfers into a baseball swing or a hockey swing, or all these skating and balance. So I even have some gymnasts in there, which one is my daughter, who says my CrossFit is not good enough for her. So it's fun though. Like they're just fun, and adults are fun too, because you have those friendships and you get to tell people you can do more than you think you can. So just keep pushing.
I jumped in on one of the Zoom calls during the quarantine, and I was loving, because it was I think the warm up was something with having to do with Michael Jackson, and every time you heard the certain thing, you had to do a burpee. I was like, man, this is so much more fun than adults. Like adults, they're like, yeah, go run around and go warm up. You know, it's like, but we get to listen to Michael Jackson and drop down and and do a burpee at this song. But it was great.
The kids love that is fun. We do a lot of Justin Bieber too. They love that.
So you've gotten to know the Justin Bieber, like all the soundtracks and all his.
Yes, lots of baby ooh.
That sounded just like it.
Yeah.
So as far as going to be a nurse and then getting involved in all this healthcare stuff, I mean, you must be pretty busy as far as throwing all your time and then raising your kids. How do you manage to handle all that?
Sometimes I'm just like, oh my gosh, I can't do this anymore. But I just think for me, thankfully, with since the kids have been born, I've worked part-time at the hospital, which has kind of been nice because I can still keep up with my credentials. And so I don't know, that's been good. And then I don't know, sometimes I look at my schedule and I even write it down and I think, oh my gosh, how am I doing this? But my kids are great. We have a routine. I feel like routines are so important. So like I get up super early every morning and have quiet time, and that's my time to kind of rest and get my day going. I work out early in the morning a lot, and I coach in the morning a lot. That way I can work around my kids' schedules. With my macro coaching, it's all online. So I do a lot of that in the evenings, or while my kids are doing their own independent work, I'll just hop on the computer. I just think I don't have time to waste. Like I don't have time to be on social media a ton, which is actually quite nice for my mental stability. But and then just I try to think of like macro coaching and CrossFit coaching as like my hobbies or things that I really enjoy. So it's my time. My job at the hospital is also my time. Like it's my time away from my kids. And even though it's a really challenging job, it's very rewarding. And so then I feel like I have more to give to my kids than feeling burned out with them. And I'm just a busy person. I feel like I don't rest well when I do try to like sit and be still. I'm like, oh, what do I got to do? I need to read or I need to do this. So I do try to find time for myself a lot. Like I go for walks, I read a book, I try to read a chapter a day of something that I enjoy. So yeah, just I think just keeping balance and then also to recognize when I'm tired and need a rest. And I'll just say, okay, I got to take a step back and maybe I'll cut something out for a couple days. But I feel like everything's in small amounts. Like I coach 2 days a week. That's not too much. I macro coach 4 days a week, and I try to make sure I have some days off. And then at the hospital, I'm usually there 1 or 2 days a week. So it works out. Somehow it does.
Mhm. What's a common thing that, or a misconception about nurses in general, or like what nurses do? Because I feel like, every floor can be different. And, when people are sick, like it's just nursing in general, I think expands for a lot. So can you tell us more about, you know, misconceptions I see that you would commonly get as a nurse?
Um, I don't know. I think a lot of times people think that we are just there to give out medications. And that can happen because it's a lot. Like a lot of people take a lot of medicines, but really, like for us, I feel like we are comforters. Like a lot of people are scared, and so I think that for me, it's going in that room and reading the room. And I feel like that's a gift that God's given me where I can go in and say, okay, this person's scared, this person's angry, this person's, and it can make you feel uncomfortable. But nurses are more than just medication pushers. Like we cared, most of us care very deeply about the patients. And so just to be able to go in and sit and talk, which is hard because our we have a lot of patients. So that's one thing that kind of stresses me out about being a nurse is we have 6, sometimes 7 patients. And so it's hard to spend that one-on-one time with them. And I feel like that's one of the most important parts of our job is to really know the patients. Like, okay, so all different nursing, like ER nurses, they get their patients in and they get rid of them. Like it's real quick. ICU nurses, a lot of the patients are usually pretty out of it or intubated, or they don't even talk and only one family member is allowed. So a lot of times those nurses, they know their patients differently. But I'm a med surg nurse, which I feel like a lot of people probably think is the lowest of the low in nursing. And honestly, like when I became a nurse, I was like, I am not going to be a med surg nurse forever. I am going to be an ICU nurse or a labor and delivery, something better than med surg. But for me, I got pregnant and then I wanted to be home with my kids. So I just never really trained. But it ended up being such a blessing because as a med surg nurse, we those patients are awake, they're alert, and we get to see a ton of different stuff. I mean, we orthopedic, surgical, stomach issue, we see everything, which is kind of cool. Like I feel like I have a wide range of nursing. But also like I know them. I want to know them. I want to know their histories. I want to know their families. I want to know, like, why are they here? Where do they live? Like, I feel almost like a detective sometimes. Like, I just want to know everything about you. And I want you to know that I'm here to take care of you. And so when I leave and a patient says, are you going to be back tomorrow? Because I really want you to be my nurse again. Like, that means so much to me. And I always feel horrible because I'm usually like, no, I'm sorry. I'm only here for one day. But like, like I built in 12 hours with 6 patients, I've built that bond with them that they know that I care about their pain. I care about their sadness. And especially right now when family members can't visit patients and it's so hard for them because they're lonely, they're scared, they're Alzheimer's patients who can't even remember their own name, but they aren't able to see their families. Like we become their family, even if it's just for 12 hours. And I feel like people don't realize that we're more than people who give out medications. We're there for comfort. So it's such an important job. I'm sorry, that was a lot of talking.
No, I
That's
love
good.
it. And we can tell how passionate you are about it, which is amazing because I think with some things it's just kind of blend in. And you're like, oh yeah, my nurse will do X, Y, and Z, but it's like it's just you're so much more, than that you provide for. And I think I just want to tell you that we like people should appreciate it and we appreciate it like in general as like,
Oh,
things that
thank you.
especially with your family, right? Because anything can happen to you at any time to you or your family member. And I think that's something that it gives you that perspective because I have worked in the hospital before, and it always gives you that perspective. Like this could be your mom or your dad or your sister, your brother,
Yes.
your aunt and your uncle, your grandma, everybody has that a family member or yourself that you never know that something's going to happen to you, and you want somebody like you to
Yeah.
actually care about you. So I think that's
Yeah.
just something that we should always tell appreciation to whatever healthcare worker that you're working with. Just
Yeah.
they're humans too.
Mhm.
Yep, they are. I think that's something that people have to remember too, that nurses have feelings and emotions. Because I think sometimes people think they can just say whatever they want to a nurse. But I've had times where I'm just like, whoa, I am a person and you cannot talk to me like that. Like I have boundaries too. So I think nurses, we have to build boundaries and we have to understand when we start to feel burned out because it's really hard to be a nurse when you're exhausted and you're burned out. And I think right now, nurses are at that point because a lot of nurses are working 4 or 5 days of 12-hour shifts and they're just tired, which just is so hard. And so I think taking care of our nurses is and just showing great appreciation for them is so important.
Yeah, definitely. So, what brought you to Las Vegas?
So so Jeff's job, he works for Cintas Uniform Company, and it was funny because he actually first we were born and raised in North Carolina, went to the same high school, all of our family lives in the same area. Nobody leaves. Like everybody stays and they're all still there. All my friends are still there. My mom, my sister, Jeff's parents, they all live real close to each other. So first we moved to Charlotte, which was like an hour away from our home, and we were like, oh, this is huge, we moved so far away. And then 4 years later we had a 1-year old and a 3-year old, and our Jeff was like, hey, there's a job opening in Chandler, Arizona. And I was like, oh, okay, fine. If you want to go for it, go for it. So he went for it, kind of fell through. And then a few months later, he was like, oh, Las Vegas, Nevada. I was like, oh, no, I could not raise my children in Las Vegas, Nevada. But I just feel like God, like, perfectly planned it all out because everything fell into place. Like, we found a house, we sold our house there very quickly, and everything worked out. I mean, we moved right into this house, which has been great. I got a job right away at Summerlin Hospital, so I've been there for 10 years. So it's just been great. And even our kids, like to them now, it's their home. So we've been here 10 years this month, actually.
Excellent. 10-year anniversary then.
Yeah.
So tell us what a macro coach is and tell us a little bit more about, what you do for in that aspect of your life.
Okay. So I work for Stay Fit Mom, which was a company that was started by my best friend Tracy Gifford and her best friend Krista. And it was they started the company just to encourage moms to be better. Like we can still take care of our bodies even when we're moms, and that's important because if we aren't taking care of ourselves, then we can't very well take care of our children. So they started that, and then they started macro coaching in 2016. And so with macro coaching, we're just training women to eat balanced. So your macronutrients are your protein, carbs, and fats. And so we give a macro prescription kind of to start out. It's kind of based on how you eat. Like, so we have them track their food for 3 days, and then they send us their pie charts from MyFitnessPal. And then we like say, okay, they're eating like 40 grams of protein, 200 grams of carbs, and like 100 grams of fat. So it's way out of balance. So at first we just slowly work them up and we just cheer them on. So they check in every week with us and we just teach them how to eat balance. We give them advice on how to hit a fiber goal. Because I think a lot of people just don't even know what macronutrients are and how they affect our metabolism, our hunger, our hormones. And so, like, a lot of women have been trained that carbs are bad, but carbs are actually super important for our bodies. But also, what is a good carb versus what is crappy carbs, like just plain old sugar, or are we eating vegetables and fruits and keeping our fiber goal up? So we just kind of train them to eat balanced. We don't want them to have to be on a diet forever. So we want them to be able to look at their plate and say, oh, I've got protein, I've got veggies, I've got carbs, I've got a healthy amount of fat, and without having to plug it in forever. So we've helped a lot of women. Like, so I started in 2016. I started as a client with my friend Tracy. And then 2 years ago, they need more coaches. And since I've been doing it for so long, they trained me and I did some nutrition training and then hopped in as a coach too. And I just love it. Again, it's that I get to know people. I get to know these women, what they're walking through, because we all have challenges and we have to learn to eat well, even when we're walking through hard times or raising small children. We still have to take care of our bodies. So that's kind of what we do. It's a really a fun community that we've built at Stay Fit Mom.
And with every mom kind of goes through every process, right? I feel like you learn as you go, obviously, because
Yeah.
that's the only way that you can. But what have you noticed about uh, the progression of people as they work with you? You probably have a variety of educational levels on like what nutrition is in general. Can you give us like examples of like people that you've worked with, or maybe one that stands out in your
Yeah.
mind about how it's changed as they worked with you?
Yeah, so a lot of our women will come and they'll be like, carbs are bad. I can't eat carbs. I only eat 100 grams of carbs a day, or protein, like I can't get protein in. So as we like slowly work them up and we give them more carbs and train them, like, okay, some carbs, yes, macros has a bad reputation of if it fits in your macros, but we don't really want that for our women. We want them to learn the importance of eating good micronutrients along with those macronutrients. And so a lot of times as I start eating carbs and protein more balanced, they'll start saying, and fat, they'll start saying, oh my gosh, I feel so good. I have so much energy. I'm lifting heavier in the gym. I don't need coffee at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I don't need a nap. Like, I feel so great. And that is the best. Like, when we get those, like, we have them check in every week. And when they check in, they always put a non-scale victory, because we really try to help them not to focus on the scale, because the scale, if you're working out, like for me, I weigh the same amount as I did when I was very unhealthy, but my body composition's way better because I have muscle. And so we just try to train them that the scale means nothing. Like, it really means nothing. And so we want you to focus on those non-scale victories. And so a lot of times they'll say things like, oh my gosh, carbs have changed my life. Or I feel so great. My energy is so high. Or I'm sleeping so much better. Or like, I'm going to the bathroom. Like, we even make a big deal about, like, I know this is disgusting, but our bowel movements and the importance of that.
It's
To me,
important.
it's not disgusting. Like, I always tell my my patients at the hospital too, like, no woman is ever going to be so excited about you passing gas or having a bowel movement than your nurse. Like, we are the and it's the same in macro coaching, because that is such an important, our gut health is so important. So just like that, women can embrace the importance of eating balance, even fats. Like, our fats are so important as women for our hormone balance. And so, sorry, Max. Hey, baby, you grab him. I'm so sorry.
It's okay, no worries.
Will you grab him real quick?
Max
So,
wants to get on that macro talk.
Like, I heard food talk.
Yeah.
When is that happening?
well, because Jeff's out in the casita, so when he comes in, Max goes bananas. There he goes.
Bye, Max.
So, but our fats are so important for our hormones, and so many women will eat like 40 grams of fat, which is so sad. And so, like, I just feel like as a macro coach and even as a CrossFit coach, it helps me when I coach other people to like realize the own issues I have in my brain, like the scale, like do I and like now I don't even weigh myself because what's the point? Like, do I feel good in my clothes? And that's what we tell our ladies. Do you feel good in your clothes? Are your progress pictures changing? Or do you have more energy? Then it's about so much more than just losing weight. It's about a whole lifestyle change. Like you're changing your life. You're not just worried about how much weight you're losing. And it's building those habits. I like to talk about habits a lot. Like it's those everyday small habits, going to the gym every day, eating healthy every day, making those choices every day. It all adds up and we're not going to be perfect. But if you just make those small changes every day or really focus on those habits, then you'll like in a year, you're like, whoa, look at me. I look amazing and I feel amazing. And I wasn't focused on the scale or how I look in a bikini. I'm more concerned about how I feel as a mom.
Yeah, I think too when you look at just one metric, like looking at the scale or waist measurement or something like that, it's not it doesn't tell you the full story of what you're trying to do or what you're trying to get to, and it doesn't give you any answers on how to progress either.
Yeah. And so like for me, I don't know, like 4 years ago, I got ultra lean and I feel like I looked great. Like I had a lot of muscle definition, but then also we have different stages of life. 4 years ago, my kids were a little younger. They weren't as involved in things. Obviously I wasn't homeschooling. So I had more time to be at the gym, more time to focus on my nutrition. Now, this season of my life is way different. I'm working more, my kids are at home. This has been a really weird year. And so, yes, my body doesn't look as defined, but I know that I'm strong and that I'm still making daily, healthy, great choices. And so, maybe the scale's up, or maybe I'm not as don't feel as fit as I used to, but I still feel good about myself because I know I'm making the right choices. And that's what we kind of try to train women at with Stay Fit Mom is God, do you feel good? If you feel good, then you're doing the right things. If you're making those habit changes every day, then you're doing the right things. Not, it doesn't have to be, if it's all about how you look in a bikini or a scale, that habit is never going to stick. It's just not going to. Like it just has to be a habit that you want to do every day. So, anyways, still, I talk a lot.
No, I love it. I mean, and we can just tell like that's just something that you enjoy doing. And I think,
Yeah.
and it's nice too because you get to see the spectrum of health in general, right? With you working as a nurse in the hospital, and you working with people who are are generally healthy, like as we call it in whatever terms of healthy is, versus like
Yeah.
you're like you're essentially optimizing people's nutrition and their overall ability to take in good foods and like have a little bit longer longevity in a sense rather
Yeah.
than going into this downward spiral of foods that maybe not are the that don't let you feel the best, and you can see it over time as people realize like, hey, this is what it feels like to feel good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And too, there should be balance. Like I love Reese's. I think they're fantastic. And so I like to balance and have two every day. I have two. I like the ones that are shaped for the holidays. And so I
Oh,
always
I
buy them up
agree.
for
Those
Christmas.
do taste better.
Yeah.
And so, but that's balance. Like I know I'm not going to eat the whole bag of them. I'm going to have two after I have lunch, and I really enjoy that. And then that's it for the day. Like the rest of the day is going to be apples or bananas or oranges or salad or broccoli. That's how I'm going to hit my carb goal. But I have balance. And I still have a drink here and there. So it's your life, like and that's what I tell a lot about women. We all have different journeys, and so your journey is going to look way different than somebody else's. Like maybe you're very stuck on eating whole foods. That is great. So your journey is going to look a little different than somebody who's always had fast food their whole lives. And a lot of times we're just trying to train these women the importance of making meals at home, planning ahead. Like you have to plan your day out and be intentional with your diet, just like you do with your workouts. And so it's changing women's and most of our women we work with are moms. There are some women that aren't moms, but most of our women are moms, which is just fun because I can relate to them and they know that, hey, I have kids too. I know what it's like to have sick kids. I know what it's like to have needy kids or all these different things. So just being able to walk with them through the seasons, and so that they are healthy and they don't end up in the hospital with obesity. Obesity is a huge thing, even with the COVID virus. Like, we see a lot of it affecting people with obesity. And so just having that control over your diet. And we also like to tell our women, we can't control everything, but there are things that we can control, and our diet is definitely one of those things we can't control. And so that's one of our big things, is control what you can, let everything else go.
So what's something you commonly see in your practice that you wish more people knew?
With what? With macros or with
Anything, nursing, macros, CrossFit?
Okay, so with nursing, just the importance of taking care of yourself, like even like mentally taking care of yourself. Like, I think moms or women, a lot of times we run ourselves down because we want to take care of everybody. So I think it's so important. Like, I see so many women who come in the hospital, and they're just worn out. They're just tired. They've worn out their joints. They've worn out their, like, they haven't taken care of themselves, so they have to have their gallbladder removed because they've got too much fat around it. And so just how important it is to take care of yourself to start with. With the gym, I just want people to know that with CrossFit, it can seem so intimidating, but it's not. Like, we can always make it work for you. And that's what I love about CrossFit. I love coaching people who are over 60. I love coaching kids who are under 16. Like, no matter where you are in your level, we can make it work for you. And that's what I love about CrossFit too, is that you're really, when you come into a class, they're small enough that we can individualize it for you. And we care about where you are in your workout journey. Like, we're going to make it fit for you. And then, like, with nutrition coaching, it's again how important knowledge is with knowing how to eat balanced, how important that is, how important protein is. Like, a lot of women will say, well, I don't want to get bulky, or I don't want to get big, so I don't want to eat a lot of protein. But protein is so important for our metabolism. It's so important for our, like, muscle, like, healing. Like, when you do work out, even if you don't work out a ton and you just walk or run, protein's still super important, and it helps control hunger. And, like, for me, coming from a nursing background, diabetes is very common. And a lot of times that can just be battled by your diet and just increase in protein, which helps level out those insulin levels and sugar. And then eating the right type of carbs, like high fiber carbs that don't spike your blood sugar. So, like, just training people to know, like, for me, it's all about education. Like, what do you know? Do you know what is a protein? Do you know where you get your carbs from? So, like, with my kids, I talk about that a lot. Like, when we fix meals, what's in this meal? Where's your protein? Where's your carbs? Where's your fat? Do you have anything green on your plate? Like, we talk about those things a lot, because I just feel like if you have that knowledge, that's super important. That's your tool that you'll use forever.
I love that. Besides your Reese's or Reese's, I don't know however you pronounce it.
Yeah.
What's your favorite cheat meal, if you can tell us more
Uh,
about that?
Cheat meals. What do I like to eat? I love hamburgers and cheeseburgers. I love them. So my kids and I, one thing that we've done a lot during the quarantine and the shutdown is we would go to drive-throughs. So we did Chick-fil-A a lot and In-N-Out Burger. Those are our only two real fast foods that I allow in the house.
I love both of those.
Both are worth it. They're worth it. And that's what I always say. Is it worth it? It's got to be worth it. So we would always go. In-N-Out was one of our favorites, and we would go get burgers and sit in the car and listen to audiobooks. So we listened to the entire Harry Potter series while eating cheeseburgers and Chick-fil-A.
I love it.
Yeah, that's pretty good. So what's something you've been working on, whether it's professionally, personally, physically, mentally, something that you're excited about?
For me, like, right now, it's been like mental health. So last year was just hard. It was hard for me. It brought up some, like, insecurities from childhood, and just, it was hard. Relationships felt hard. And so I started counseling, which was great. I've done counseling before. I just think counseling has such a bad rap of, oh, something must be really wrong with you if you have to do counseling. But it's not true. You can be a healthy person and just need to work through some things. And so that's been super good for me. And just reading books that help me like think through some things. I think we all struggle, and maybe you don't want to admit it. So for me, it's just like, okay, I need a little help. And so that's one thing I feel pretty good about right now is just working on my mental health, and also just homeschooling our kids has been a huge challenge. So just being gentle with myself, not worrying about being a perfectionist with it. That I had a friend tell me one day, Lee Ann, you don't have to be perfect. I'm like, oh, you're right. I don't have to be perfect. I'm probably not messing them up too bad. So just like staying calm with that we're okay.
I love
I
it.
know that's kind of a weird thing to be working on, but
No,
No, not at all.
I think it's 100% something that people need to hear more of, and just know that if you're working on, everybody's working on something, whether it's physically they're trying to improve, something, or mentally they're trying to have a little bit clearer space mentally, that's, I think that, and it's, if you're using and you're asking for help, I think that's the tough thing for people to do, and because it requires some vulnerability, and
yeah, it's very humbling. It's very humbling to think, wait, I don't have it all together. Like I actually have struggles too, because you think like as a mom or a wife or whatever, or even a professional, you think, oh, I should have it all together. But really all of us come from broken backgrounds with broken people, and so we just have to sometimes work on that. So it's been good. That's been really good.
that's awesome.
So what's something you want to leave listeners with?
It's just for me, like taking care of your body and taking care of yourself is so much more than just working out. It's nutrition, it's taking care of your mental, like going for walks every day. Find something that helps you to relax. Like for me, like I feel like in our culture, it's go, go, go all the time, which is horrible for your hormones, by the way. But to take time to, okay, I'm going to work on a puzzle for an hour. I'm going to go, like for me, a lot of times is I'm never alone anymore. I'm always like, I feel like I've gone back to toddler age children where somebody's always with me all the time. So just taking the time, okay, I'm gonna go for a walk. So just recognizing like what your body needs, if it's balanced meals, if it's more exercise, if it's mental health, like really knowing what your body needs is so important, so that we have to constantly examine ourselves, like what needs to change, like not like a New Year's resolution, but maybe every 6 weeks I say, okay, I'm going to work on this for the next 6 weeks. I'm going to focus on rest and restoration, or I'm going to focus on proper nutrition, or because when we build those habits, it really goes on forever if you work at it.
Mm-hmm. And how can people find you?
So I am on Instagram at Lee_Coffer. That's Instagram. And then on Facebook, Lee Ann Coffer. And then also just a shout out to Stay Fit Mom. So if you go to Instagram or Facebook, you can find the Stay Fit Mom Nutrition. And then I coach at CrossFit Culmination. So I'm there on Tuesdays and Saturdays and to cheer everybody on. I'm the cheerful coach. I feel like I'm the one that's, you can do it.
I love it.
Yeah, well, really appreciate you, Lee Ann. Thank you for everything you do. Thank you for taking care of our sick people out here. And thank you for helping moms get better and stay on track. I think you're awesome. And it's been a pleasure having you on the show.
Yeah, thanks, y'all, for having me.
We'd like to thank you for listening to La Vida Las Vegas podcast. We hope you enjoyed the time with our guests as much as we did. It would help us out so much if you could share, subscribe, or review our podcast, or any combination of the three. Thanks again, and remember to take care of yourself.